Selamun Aleyküm ve Rahmetullahi ve Berekatuhu.
Can you take a chair?
Rabbi Shrah li sadri ve yassir li emri ve hlul min lisani yafqahu qawli. So we will inshallah continue with page 235, 17th word, and the section, the fruit of the pine, cedar, juniper, and black cypress trees. And let's start, inshallah. I guess the last week we finished the page 235. We read this sentence and discussed the sentence after receiving instruction on high rocks, the trees raise their heads to divine throne. That's the part we discussed. Abdurrahman, would you like to summarize what we discussed so far?
From what I remember, we were talking about how Nursi went through some training where he was then able to look at the world, and like there was a specific sentence, with his eyes he saw instruction, and like with his ears he listened to like the wisdom or something, and then when he looked at a tree, he saw like this tree, it took pleasure in being a tree, it took pleasure in being a painting that the painter created. And he was, I think that's what we were going through, right?
Yeah, I guess the interesting part was when he was looking or hearing the nature, he was able to see the enjoyment of the creatures. How they enjoy being created in a certain way, manifesting all these different names. And I guess from this enjoyment, he was kind of discovering his own existential enjoyments. And then in the last part, with the sentence after receiving instruction on high rocks, the trees raise their heads to divine throne. I remember we discussed a little about how every creature being the divine throne of the Creator. Because when you look at any creature, you see all these names manifested there, as if your Creator sitting on the throne. Like when you look at the tree, when you look at the stone, you see your Creator there. As if the stone or the tree is the divine throne of the Creator.
So when you talk about divine throne, don't imagine a real throne that someone is sitting on it and like giving commands. Like that's usually how we take in the real life. So it's a figurative speech, and we have to interpret it like in the light of the revelation and also understand what it means in the creation.
So inshallah we will continue with the next page.
Each like Shahbaz Qalamdar stretches out 100 hands to the court of God and assumes an imposing position of worship. They make their small tassel-like twigs and branches dance, so both they and those that watch them express their fine pleasure and elevated delight. They give voice as though touching the most sensitive strings and veins of the veils of love. Ah, it is he. From it, a meaning such as this comes to mind. They recall both the weeping caused by the pain of the fading of metaphorical loves and a profoundly sorrowful moaning. They make heard the melancholy songs of all lovers parted from their beloveds, like Sultan Mahmud. They seem to have a duty of making the dead hear the pre-eternal songs and sorrowful voices, who no longer hear worldly voices and words. The Spirit understands from this that beings respond with glorification to the manifestation of the glorious Maker's names. They perform a graceful chant. The heart reads the mystery of divine unity from these trees, each like an embodied sign from the elevated word order of this miraculousness. That is, there is so wonderful an order, art, and wisdom in the manner of their creation, that if all the causes in existence had the power to act and choose, and they gathered together, they could not imitate them. The soul, on seeing them, sees the whole earth as revolving in a clamorous tumult of separation, and seeks enduring pleasure. It receives the meaning, you will find it in abandoning worship of this world. the mind discovers from the chanting animals and trees and the vociferous plants and air a most meaningful order of creation, embroidery of wisdom, and treasury of secrets. The desirous soul receives such pleasure from the murmuring air and whispering leaves that it forgets all metaphorical pleasures, and through abandoning these, which endow it life, wants to die in the pleasure of reality. The imagination sees that appointed angels have entered these trees like bodies, from whose branches hang many flutes. It is as though an eternal monarch has clothed the angels in the trees from a splendid parade, accompanied with the sounds of 1,000 flutes. Thus, the trees show themselves to be not lifeless, unconscious bodies, but highly conscious and meaningful. The flutes are pure and powerful, as though issuing from a heavenly, exalted orchestra. The mind does not hear from them the sorrowful plaints of separation that foremost Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi and all lovers hear, but dominical praise and laudation and grateful thanks offered to the most merciful one, the ever-living, the self-subsistent. Since the trees have all become bodies, their leaves have become tongues. At the touching of the breeze, each recites over and over again, "It is He, it is He." With the benedictions of their lives, they proclaim their Maker to be ever-living and self-subsistent. With the tongue of disposition, they continuously declare, "O God," and seek the necessities of their lives from Him, from the treasury of mercy. And through the tongue of their manifesting light from top to bottom, they recite His name of O Living One, O ever-living and self-subsistent One. Through the names of ever-living and self-subsistent, endow the heart of this wretched one with life, and bestow sound direction on his confused mind. Amen.
Each like Shahbaz calendar. There's a footnote for this character, Shahbaz calendar. Let me read it. It says, Shahbaz calendar was a famous hero who, through the guidance of Sheikh Gailani, took refuge at the divine court and rose to the degree of sainthood. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the person. So all I know that he was saint. Sorry for my...
Maybe that's not you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
But you're not saying.
Oh, okay. I see. Each like Shahbaz calendar stretches out 100 hands to the court of God and assumes an imposing position of worship. Because this is very relevant to the last part we discussed.
Refers to the trees, right?
Yes. He's still referring to trees and saying they, with 100 hands, they reach to the court of God and assumes an imposing position of worship. They make their small tassel-like twigs and branches dance, so both they and those that watch them express their fine pleasure and elevated delight. Last week we were discussing about worship, I remember. I guess we were trying to make a connection between how we perceive the things around us, how we see them, and how worship comes. I'm trying to find another word instead of saying natural.
The tree.
I guess, yeah, once you analyze the reality, once you question how things come to an existence, what they indicate, how we reach the Creator through them, I guess worship, we said, is a position that we take without any hesitation. We say, yes, whatever giving rise to this creation that I experience must be so elevated, must be so powerful, right? And the worship, we take it as, again, we take it without any hesitation. And here, I guess he's...
You mean like reaching the certainty in your heart? Like...
Yes, thank you.
Okay. That wasn't.
Okay. Yeah, once you reach the certainty in your heart, I guess worship is something you want to do because you want to express yourself. You want to express your gratitude. You want to express your acknowledgement of Him. You want to express your love. And this is, at least to me, what I understand from worship. And when he says all these trees with 100 hands imposing the position of worship, it sounds like by being a tree, by following the order of the Creator, I'm just trying to find the right words. Maybe someone else should interfere. Sorry for that. I have to think more, maybe.
Like what I understand from worship is like glorifying the gist of the worship is glorification of the Maker. And what glorification means is that like declaring that whatever the qualities that is manifested in you is not from you, and it belongs to someone else. That is the like simple like statement. That is the meaning of glorification that I understand, and that is the essence of the worship. So like for humans, like we declare that in terms of like language and certain physical like actions, right? But as far as the creation like goes, like obviously like they are not endowed with any kind of like verbal language, but they can declare that in terms of their actions. And what I understand from this reading is that like Nursi reads those actions in a way that's actually like a meaningful, like almost like a meaningful like letter. And he look at the creation in a way that he sees that they are taking a position to worship the Creator, which means they are glorifying Him, and there are certain qualities and attributes reflected on the, like for example, the trees. But none of those qualities are from the trees, and they are declaring that through their. There is one term that Nursi used, the tongue of disposition, which means like through their physical like actions. And so that is the worship for the creation out there. But as far as human like being is concerned, the question is, are we really able to reach their like glorification and get in line with that, like in our personal like everyday life? So when we interact with, like for example, with a tree, or when we interact with an animal, they do their own natural like fitri like glorification, worship. But are we aware of that, and do we read like, or do we interact with those like beings with that kind of mindset? And like I think Nursi does that in his like everyday life, and here he just gives up like piece of example how he interacted with the trees on top of the mountain. Like as you can you feel like the way that he interacts, like almost like he's interacting with an like conscious being.
They will become conscious being as well in the rest of the text. Yes, that's a good.
Like I think we are like, that may not be true for you, Abdurrahman, because you are born and raised here, right?
Practically.
Yeah. So, but you were born somewhere else. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you were raised in this culture.
Yeah.
Like especially for people like us who are born and raised in dominant like Western culture, when we talk about worship, the first thing comes to our mind is like the rituals, and we just leave it there most of the time. That's why like this kind of understanding of worship is like new for us, because we don't necessarily we say that like worshiping is like going to Juma, for example, or like praying 5 times a day. But, like that is part of it, but what is on the basis, like there needs to be a foundation for that. What is the foundation? And I think Lucy talks about the foundation here.
It is also interesting. He says the trees stretches out 100 hands. Not 1 hand or 2 hands, like 100 hands. Yes, of course, you can make the analogy with the branches. But if we follow your logic and take worship as declaring the qualities of your Creator, glorifying Him, if we take the worship in that way, I guess he's also referring to the fact that one tree, just one tree, shows us hundreds of qualities of the Creator, not only one. Like it's not just a tree. You can read the tree in hundreds of different ways, and each will take you to another quality of the Creator. Once you will only see the tree, something created, and then you will see something which feeds the animals, something which continues its existence, something which preserves the essence of it, like in its seeds, and then transfer it to next generations. Something colorful, something tasty, something smell, like with a smell. All these different qualities of these different aspects of dimensions of the tree, just one tree, takes you from different paths to different qualities of the Creator.
Or we can think of the...
How do they take you to the qualities of the Creator?
I guess when he says, stretches out 100 hands to the court of God, what I understand from that is, if you follow them, the only thing you will reach is the God, the court of God. So when you want to say something?
Yeah, actually, like maybe it will be an answer to the question as well. I was just gonna say, when you look at this tree, you see design, and that design should point to a designer, and you see the tree getting some sort of sustenance to like continue its life, and there should be a pointer to a sustainer. And you see the tree has a life, and there should be a pointer to a creator who is the giver of life.
Yeah, and you look.
So through those qualities reflected in the tree, you understand the attributes of the maker of the tree.
How do you say they're reflected? So you look for what could be the cause of these qualities. Could it be the source of could the source be itself or the cause around it? Could the designer be anywhere here?
Yeah, I think last week there was a comment or question that like whether we like come to the conclusion questioning that okay, what are the causes? Like causes is that the way that how music like deals with the subject, this specific subject? And like again, my understanding was like here it seems like he has already reached a certainty in his heart, so there is not much questioning or intellectual analysis. It's more like there is more emotion in it. So you reach a certainty in your heart that like he is the maker of every single event, And then you start like looking at the creation with that mindset, and you get emotionally engaged with it and read with that mindset. So like, in a way, this is the second step after you have already gone through that like causal, like practicing the causal relationship.
Did he say that at the beginning? Because sometimes he says that this is more like this text is more
looks to the heart.
to the heart. Yeah, exactly. Did he say something at the beginning, or I don't know? This is part of the word, right? Part of the word.
Yeah. The first paragraph says, one time during my captivity, while gazing at the majestic and wonderful forms of the pine, cedar, and juniper trees on the top of mountain top, a gentle breeze was blowing, transforming the scene into a magnificent, delightful, and clamorous display of dancing and rapturous performance of praise and glorification. The enjoyment of watching it was transformed into instruction for my eyes and wisdom for my ears. I suddenly recalled the Kurdish lines of Ahmed al-Jizri, whose meaning is, and continues.
So, to me, at least reading this first paragraph again, yes, it seems like more touching to
Looking
your
to
senses. So I guess, at least what I understand from the text, it's not a matter of questioning things, but rather, I would say, enjoying them.
Living with it.
Yeah, living with it.
listening to an orchestra.
Yes, listening to an orchestra.
And there's some imagination here too.
It's
Actually, that's a good example. Like, for example, when you listen to a good like piece of like music, you don't necessarily think about the notes, right? Like how mathematically they come together. You just enjoy it, like listening to it.
Yeah.
I guess this part is mostly missing in, let's say, my life. I don't know what yours. Maybe it's different in Ohio.
But until you can fully enjoy the orchestra, you have to go through so many steps, right? You need to learn the notes and different instruments, but then the whole composition and how they all come together, and
Then it makes much more, like, I guess,
a lot
like
more
enjoyable
sense.
for
And
you.
the person who enjoys it the most is the one who is most advanced in understanding the fine tunings of all the components that bring them together. It's missing.
But the people like us who don't know anything about orchestra, you listen to it and we're like, what is this noise? And like they spent, all these people come together to make an orchestra, and you buy really expensive tickets, but even if you gave us a free ticket, we wouldn't understand it. We wouldn't enjoy it.
Yeah. So maybe he's trying to whet our appetite. Hey, educate yourself so that you can enjoy this too.
Yeah, I think like that's especially with the section, I think that's what he's trying to do.
They make their small tassel-like twigs and branches dense, so both they and those that watch them express their fine pleasure and elevated delight. So here he now introduces another dimension. So one thing, like when we observe trees or other creatures, we learn things from them. We reach our Creator. But he also says they themselves also enjoy their, like, being created.
They get pleasure out of it.
They get pleasure out of it. So when I try to reflect this to myself, like, do I enjoy my existence? Like, do I enjoy? I'm not saying it in a way that, like, enjoy your life. No, when I check myself, like, do I enjoy being in this state, in this way, being created that way? So the details he talks about, like tassel-like twigs, branches. So there are too many details of a tree. tree is not just a mess, just a single mess. There's all these details in the creation of the tree. I guess this is important because when I look at myself, like I'm a so detailedly crafted creature. Like, as deep as I go to study myself, there is no end. I always get lost. You can take it emotionally, like my emotions are so deep, they go to infinity. My biological construct is so deep, goes to infinity. My physical camera, doesn't matter what aspects you look, it's so detailedly crafted. As if somebody really, takes his job so serious and putting so much emphasis on me. Like I am being created by someone who takes care of me, who worries about my creation. How am I designed? How am I, acting? Whoever giving rise to this creation, it's obviously taking it serious. I'm someone, like as a person, I am someone who gives importance. He gives importance. I'm an important being. I'm so important that I deserve such a detailed creation. I am someone who's loved. Whoever creating me obviously loves me. I mean, when I look at myself, how my finger placed, how I can use my fingers. Obviously, someone is loving me and showing me this love. So yes, it's something that I can get immense pleasure out of it. When I look at my creation, I get this pleasure.
As long as you are conscious of it.
Exactly. Yes.
I think if we were able to really have that consciousness at all time and take pleasure out of our own existence, in today's society we wouldn't be so much indulged in materialistic lifestyle, because since we don't take pleasure out of our own existence, we try to fill that gap with something else. And because of that intense need, because it is something very substantial and existential, it is exploited and used by whoever is controlling the money or the society. And then you just go after for material stuff, because this is the way that you get pleasure. This is the only way that you get pleasure, and it's instantaneous. So it's a vicious circle. Then you go after one thing, then that doesn't satisfy you. You go after another one.
I think what drives us is not so much pleasure, but a need for security. We're always constantly trying to secure our existence. At least that's how I find myself. I want to guarantee my future. I want to continue to exist. I want to continue to have what I have. I don't want to lose what I have.
I don't think this is one or the other. I think that they both, it's true. They are working together.
Yeah, working together.
And there's another thing. On one hand, we are looking for pleasure and materialistic growth. We're saying that you should just acquire more.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you are concerned about your future and you feel insecure. Then they say that you have to have a life insurance.
Yeah.
Or you have to have they have millions, that will be exaggeration, but tens, maybe thousands of different insurance that they have. So that's another way for them to impose on you.
Yeah. I get pleasure from existence, but if the existence is not secure, then that pleasure diminishes substantially. So I go after trying to secure their existence so I can get pleasure from it.
I guess he will touch upon this part, exactly what you were saying, when he says the soul, on seeing them, sees the whole earth as revolving in a clamorous tumult. Clamorous tumult of separation. That's how your soul sees the same world. Yeah. I guess, yeah, he will touch upon that. But at this point, when he says, they give voice as though touching the most sensitive strings and veins of the veils of love. Ah, it is he. So, I don't know, I mean, watching the trees or even yourself in that way, seeing the love there, like the trees making this music of the love, this is so amazing. Because you just imagine yourself looking at the mirror. What do you see? Oh, another part of my beard gets white. Oh, I lose another hair. When I'm getting old. Oh, today I'm sick. Do I look fat? But this is how we live the life.
She's not fat.
She's not. I was more handsome before, I'm getting uglier. But what he says, whatever you see there, it is put there with love. Like whoever created you loves you. Look at the way your beard getting white. Just look at it, how it gets white. It is an indication of the love, he says.
She takes pleasure of her own existence.
When your baby cries out of sickness, right? The way this cry is created is the indication of the love. It's the indication of, I'm taking you serious. When I give you something, even when you lose your hair, I'm creating it in a perfect way. So you are so important for me. Like this is the message you receive. But somehow, as you two were saying, once we lose this consciousness, once we lose this connection, we start questioning our values. Am I, valuable enough? Do people love me?
Then you start feeling like you're worthless.
Exactly. You become just a tree. Like when I say tree, now I'm referring to like outer shell. That tree, that's what you become, a trunk. But even a tree, a living tree, enjoys its life, enjoys its creation. Not only enjoy, also glorifies the source of this creation. And this is the worship in its own tongue of disposition. I guess maybe, I don't know, this might sound a little egocentric, but maybe one reason we don't get the pleasure that we're supposed to get from our worships, because sometimes I guess we forget our own value that is manifested to us. Because we lose this sense of being a valuable creature, we cannot glorify him enough. Like we cannot make the connection during our worship.
Yeah, if you don't see any value in yourself, how can you really? There is nothing there to appreciate, and
yes.
There is nothing there to glorify, because you cannot point something to him if it is not there, and if you don't see any value or worth in yourself, then there is nothing to glorify.
I think when we lose the connection, we lose we don't feel we are valuable. And then at that moment, we try to feel or give ourselves value through material things. So I think that's the the result of the
Yeah, like
behavior.
that's usually our coping mechanism. That's like, because one way or another we need to like somehow survive, right? And if you like feel completely worthless, what's usually your drive to like even like live your life? Then like you start like finding some sort of coping mechanism so you can get the day by.
But isn't, when you look at a tree, like you feel like this maybe like 1 out of 100 times you look at a tree, you're like, oh wow, and you feel the joy in it.
If you live 1 out of 100, then you're really you're really out there somewhere.
Very rarely in life, because you're saying, in the material world, we get something, we get instantaneous pleasure, and then it's a vicious cycle. But I'd say in religion, it's the same thing. Mostly it's just not so amazing, and sometimes we get those amazing moments, and then we fall out, and then it's a vicious cycle again. It's a vicious cycle in religion as well, because no one's, even Nursi, I doubt he stays at this level much of constantly living in that joy. He gets that joy for that moment, and then after this, he goes through a ton of pain, or away from that.
It may be a cycle, yes.
There's a vicious cycle there too.
I wouldn't call it as vicious cycle. It's
Okay, maybe not vicious, but it's a cycle. If you call a materialistic world a vicious cycle, then I think it's a vicious cycle too. I guess the same.
As long as the cycle is upward, then there's no reason to complain. So each pain, if you use each pain as a jumping board for the next level of pleasure, right? And you wouldn't call that pain as something bad, because through that pain you could jump to the next level of
So
understanding.
is there some improvement there then? All the time there's some improvement?
I think there has to be.
Is it because you get more joy, or is it because the pain lessens, or is it because where's the improvement?
A different level of understanding, different level of pleasure, different level of realizing your own value. Because I think our whole life is trying to understand who we are.
Does it ever get easier? Maybe is a better question.
Not necessarily, because when you learn math, does it ever get easier as you advance?
No, it doesn't.
Same idea, but you get pleasure from learning the next level of math, right?
So I guess it's more fulfilling for pleasure.
I think there is a difference between a vicious cycle and a cycle. So I think in religion it is true, it's a cycle, because that's how you learn. You have to go you have to have those ups and downs to train yourself, because that's part of your learning. And belief is not something static, right? It's a dynamic process. But when it comes to for example, the materialistic stuff, you know that you get that instantaneous pleasure, but you know that they are not the source who can give you the pleasure. So in that sense, it's a vicious cycle, because on one hand, you know that there is someone on the side of the religion, there is someone who is talking to you, let's say, through the three. He's giving you some sort of message. In this context, we can talk about love, how valuable you are. So your creator is telling you that you are really valuable for him and he loves you. That's one way of looking at it, and that's something substantial and existential, and it is there, and it's true because you know that there must be a creator, because we just talked about that. This is you already have the certainty, right? And on the vicious cycle part, it has no basis. Existentially speaking, for example, having the best new phone, let's say, it's an intense pleasure, but phone, or even the maker of the phone, doesn't know you and doesn't really care about you. They all only think what they care is the money that they're gonna make, and they can not make you happy, nor they actually do really care about making you happy.
Yeah,
I think that's the difference between the two. So I'm not sure if when it comes to religion, it is true that you go through different situations. I'm not sure if you can really call it a vicious cycle.
I guess our expectations sometimes is when we talk about the faith or being elevated in terms of faith, what we imagine that we will reach a point that we will be free of
Nirvana.
Yes. We will be free of any, I don't know, sickness, pain, or anything troubles you. I guess the way Nursi puts things is different than this. He talks about the weakness or your needs or sickness as a source of fulfillment. They are not there to get rid of.
They're a prelude.
Yeah. Just like, when I was saying that when I look at how I lose my hair, it's not something good. I mean, I don't want to lose my hair, but I do. But when I look at the way I lose my hair, the way it is created, right? This, at least for a moment, it's enough to fulfill my needs. Because I don't care about the hair at the existential level. Like what I care is somebody show me that he or she values me, that I'm someone loved, someone being cared of. And the way I lose my hair tells me that. Because the creation is so perfect. Like whoever is doing this, it's obvious that he loves me. Once you reach that point, yes, you will still have the pain, you will still have the sickness. But they will take you just to another quality of this one who loves you. You will know him better. So I don't think it's like a vicious cycle or something bad. Yes, we all always go through these fluctuations. But I guess it's more like a battery. Like a battery has this positive and the negative side, but through the interaction between these two, you get the current. Without the positive and the negative working together, there's no current.
I don't really know the word for it, but like when I think self-worth, I don't know if it's an English word, that value that you're looking for, when you lose that, then you lose your identity, and there you don't have to really live anymore in your mind, and that's where the suicides come most of the people. And what brings people to that point is like, I think, losing that connection and like, or not being able to really see the message that God is creating for every individual. And sometimes it's not easy. Like, I mean, we are talking about this all the time, but when it comes to practicing it in certain situations, you just don't see the message. Like, and you go like, okay, what do you want? Like, what are you telling me here? So like, if you don't have that kind of mindset, like I think it is just inevitable conclusion for man just to stop his life because it's not worth anything and it doesn't mean anything. When you come to that point, then like dying or living makes no difference. It is the same thing.
From it, a meaning such as this comes to mind. They recall both the weeping caused by the pain of the fading of metaphorical loves and the profoundly sorrowful mourning. They make heard the melancholy songs of all lovers parted from their beloveds, like Sultan Mahmud. They seem to have a duty of making the dead hear the pre-eternal songs and sorrowful voices, who no longer hear worldly voices and words. This part little encrypted for me. But then he continues, he said, the Spirit understands from this that beings respond with glorification to the manifestation of the glorious Maker's names. They perform a graceful chant. So, can anybody explain or at least share ideas what he means when he says the part starting from if a meaning such as this comes to mind?
Did you read the previous sentence?
I read it, I guess,
Yes.
during the...
Yeah.
Do you think it is related to this one, or you asked just because not to miss it?
Yeah, not
Okay. So again, anyone wants to help me?
But like, if you realize that, like, okay, he started with mind, then he talks about spirit, then he talks about heart and soul.
Mm-hmm.
So every faculty, human faculty, has its own share from the creation. And if you look at the experience just with the mind, you get something different than when, like, you listen to your spirit.
Okay, I see.
And that's what I understand. Like, so if you look at, like, just with the mind, just intellectually, when you look at the creation, what you see is sorrow, because there is always separation. And because of that separation, there is this sorrowful mourning. That's how you see it, because it is constantly being renewed. But if you just, like, get stuck within the things, like, that's what you're going to get out of it. I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding it or understanding it right, but at least that's what it sounds like.
Any other suggestions? We have many participants joining online, so
Who's joining online?
we have Guch. I'm just guessing, maybe Ashanur, Asım, Fariha, and H. Beyza, I guess, Hatice Beyza.
Okay. I'm also confused a little because you're talking about the orchestra and everything, the pleasure.
It went to the mind again.
It went to the sorrow part. Maybe the cycle here again, I don't know.
Yeah, because we were just talking about how they enjoyed being created,
Yeah.
and now they're talking about being sorrowful. So.
Each paragraph, like, plus they all together, right? So if you're talking about human being, we should take, like, the picture as a whole. And each human faculty may get, like, different meanings out of it. I think this is what he studies here. So, like, mind, the share of mind may be different than the share of heart, and different than the share of the spirit.
So are you saying that the mind's duty here is to see the sorrow because of the pain of separating from metaphorical loves?
So, I guess these metaphorical loves, the phrase is important, because what he's saying is the separation is not from the one who loves you. The separation is from metaphorical loves. That you observe the love. Salam alaikum, can you hear us?
Yes, walaikum salam, welcome back.
MashaAllah. So sorry for that. Because of my faulty design, we had a technical problem. So let's continue, inshallah, what we were saying.
You were about to explain to us what metaphorical love is.
To explain that? Okay.
Establish.
You're going to explain it.
From it, a meaning such as this comes to mind. They recall both the weeping caused by the pain of the fading of metaphorical loves and the profoundly sorrowful mourning. So Azman, he reminded us that in this part of the text, he is referring to the share that mind takes from it. Yes, I really like the part when you say share.
So what is the it in this sentence?
From it,
from the experience, like your interaction with the tree or with your surroundings.
I guess, yeah, that is what I understand. He was talking about an experience. He was talking about the trees, how they reach to court of God, how they manifest all these names, or from another perspective, the orchestra that he experienced, that these trees making all these sounds, the singing. I guess this is like it referring to entire experience. And what Osman was saying, when mind look at this experience, like when it takes its share, the mind, it starts with the separation from all these metaphorical loves. And what I understand from metaphorical love is you experience, you observe love through things, like you love your wife, right? You love your children, you love your mother, your brothers, sisters. Maryam loves his brother Yusuf, right, Maryam? She cannot imagine a life without Yusuf. Right? This is the extent of the love she has. But he says this is just a metaphorical love. This is not the real love. Like through Yusuf, Maryam experienced an instance of this love. Through Yusuf, she knows that, by the way, the name's perfect matching, right? Yeah. So I'm not referring to Yusuf and his wife, Maryam. We have a couple of children here. The daughter and son of Zafar. They also named Yusuf and Maryam, so sorry for confusion. So now I'm referring to brotherly love, like sisters, brothers, siblings. Yes, thank you. Anyway, so we experience all these love instances, but they are there just to remind us the real source of the love. With his words, it's just a metaphorical love that we reach or that we understand the real love. And mind, through observing or experiencing this separation from metaphorical loves, through this experience, the mind starts understanding or analyzing things. So I guess when he talks about the separation or fading of metaphorical loves, he's not necessarily referring to something, let's say, negative. Like as if intellect reads the universe as a terrible place, only sees the separation. I think he's not referring to this. Instead, he's saying that through the fading of metaphorical loves, the person starts questioning the real source of the love.
It is the stepping stone.
Yes, it is the stepping stone. And your mind does this well. So it's not something, it's not a wrong attitude against the creation. It is how you start. You first seize the separation. You realize your flower is not there anymore. It fades out, dies. Your brother gets older and leaves the house. So you have to find someone else to play with. But through this experience, you start questioning the real source of the love. Because the love you experienced so far, it was just a metaphorical love.
So it could be like conditioning, right? Like how, the Pavlov's dogs experience. Mm-hmm. The dogs would start salivating every time they hear the bell, right? So if you have been conditioned to experience this fulfillment every time after feeling that sorrow, then that sorrow will look different to you. Right? It's not the old sorrow where when you feel sorrow and you're unhappy. But this is the kind of sorrow that is the harbinger of the fulfillment that's about to come.
Yes, yes.
So what you say.
I guess, yes, the way I understand is the mind, let's put it that way, because I guess it's really important. Brother Ali was emphasizing this a lot, that we shouldn't separate the human into compartments, right? I guess the way we should take, at least the way I am thinking, is there are different ways, there are different kinds of relationships that you establish with the reality. There is one way of looking at the reality with your intellect. You get something. And then you look at the reality through your spirit, you get something else. But it's always you, like, it's not part of you doing something, another part of you doing something. It's the way we interact with the reality. Sometimes we interact with the reality by questioning things, by reasoning. Sometimes we interact with the reality with some other faculties. It's always us interacting with the reality. And here, I guess he's referring to just one way of interaction, one way of connection we have with the reality. And through this connection, which is only the first step, we realize that everything leaves us. All the beloved ones, they leave us. This is the first step. We realize that. We realize that through mind, we realize that they are not the source of the love I am after. But this is a realization, it's something good. This is the first step. I acknowledge that they are not the source of the love that I'm after.
Like, you can do it another way, like,
Do you need the password again?
when you interact with the creation, you have to interact with all the faculties. And you have to understand that for each faculty is what you can get out of it.
That's really what I really enjoy when I read Nursi. The way he depicts the human being, it's so colorful. It's not just black and white.
She looks at you and laughs.
We can't, this is about you, it's not about her.
I know, she wants my attention again. Yes, he pictures the human being in a very colorful way. It's not just black and white. There's no one way of connecting with the reality. There are thousands of different ways. And we are able to do all of this. We have all these different colors. Like sometimes we look at things through our minds. Sometimes we look at things through our spirit. Sometimes we look at things through our soul. Sometimes we look at these things through our imagination. All these different dimensions, all these different colors. So I guess, yeah, we shouldn't miss any of these. And when he continues with the spirit, the spirit understands from this that beings respond with glorification to the manifestation of the glorious Maker's names. They perform a graceful chant. So when you first make your connection with the reality through your mind and realize that everybody leaves you, and then continue with making a connection with your spirit, you realize that this is not something sorrowful, because through this separation, they tell you that they are not the source of the love that you are after, right? This is the spirit now kicks in. It tells you that, but look at things, like look at their inner reality. Go even a little bit deeper, right? What they do, they manifest the names of the glorious Maker. Think about the Maker that who put things in front of you. And what they do, they manifest these names. And once you reach this realization, the sorrowful song becomes a graceful chant, a glorification. There's something about it. Please.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the text like you guys. So like at the beginning we said like the mind, right? Like what meanings mind gets. And when you look at the original language, the first one actually refers to it says fikir, which doesn't directly refer to the mind itself. So just looking at the original language and looking at the English translation again, I'm not sure if like when he talks about the first paragraph, I'm not sure if that is like superficial sight. When you look at the creation, that's what you get like at the first sight. Then like each of your faculties takes their own share from that experience.
Yeah. So first, it's as if you first look at it in their own name. Like Mana Ismi. And then you get some kind of an impression, and then
you go further, one step further.
That first impression, that first encounter, puts in motion all the faculties of the human being. They start functioning.
Mm-hmm.
And and he starts with the spirit, and then the heart, and then the mind, and
because like he's gonna talk about mind again, and like then like mind in the paragraphs that we study and the mind that will come doesn't match with together. I'm like, okay, why is that? Like, and when you look at the like original language, it is you see the difference because the translation, I guess it is maybe there's no better way of translating.
What was the order again?
The part that we study, which is from it the meaning such this comes to the mind. They recall both the weeping caused by the pain of the fading of metaphorical loves. There, like the original word is fikir, which means how would you thought? Not really thought. Like how would you?
it occurs to you, like
Reflection?
Not really reflection, but it is something that comes like some idea almost, like comes to your mind. Like that is your first initial reaction to it, I think. And from there, like this process starts, and each faculty of human being takes their own shape. And in the following paragraphs, he's going to talk about the mind again. The mind discovers from the chanting animals and trees and the voice, I cannot say that word, plants and air, and most meaningful order and creation, wisdom, treasure, and like script goes on. So when you look at like, when you first interact with the creation, your immediate superficial like take is that everything is getting separated, and from that there is sorrow and melancholy state of mind. And then like he goes on the spirit and the heart and the soul and the mind and talks about what their shades are. So just a little clarification on the translation part.
It makes sense to me now. I mean, initially I was perplexed as to why, you were listening to the orchestra and what is this sorrow now?
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't follow, like, it wasn't coherent with the rest of the text.
So I think he's trying to explain how can you start hearing the orchestra. It is through first through that first encounter, and then your faculties start functioning, and then you get consumed by the orchestra.
So he continues, the heart reads the mystery of divine unity from these trees.
But like I want to draw your attention. The spirit goes with the glorification. That's something like I think it should be underlined. So the spirit understands from this that the beings respond with glorification to the manifestation of the glorious maker's name.
So it seems like worship or glorification almost like main duty of the spirit.
The heart reads the mystery of divine unity from these trees, each like an embodied sign from the elevated word order of this miraculousness. Each like an embodied sign from the elevated word order of this miraculousness. That is, there is so wonderful an order, art, and wisdom in the manner of the creation. That is, there is so wonderful an order, art, and wisdom in the manner of their creation, that if all the causes in existence have power to act and choose, and they gather together, they couldn't imitate them.
I have trouble with elevated word order. Do you know what that means?
So if anybody have an idea.
Which
Could it be a typo? Could it be world order, or is it word order? Elevated word order.
Which paragraph is that in?
The heart reads the mystery. It's the second line.
The heart reads the mystery.
Yeah, it is the word order. It means the names that the glorification is happening. That's why he says the order, art, and wisdom. So these are like the main words that one can think of.
So the words here referring to what?
So whatever, by looking at creation and looking in this example, looking at the trees, they all are, everybody who is examining them or studying them comes with certain qualities or words to qualify them with.
Yeah, I guess.
So they are like the result of an order and art and wisdom. So I would think that's the word order.
I guess the important part here, the reason he chose using word, I guess he's referring to the fact that it is the creation is something like a speech.
I think there is some figurative link there between the creation and the, for example, Quran and its miraculousness is language-wise, how concise it is and how much meaning it can carry in a very concise manner. So it seems like he's linking that with the actual creation itself.
So yeah, what I understand is he sees the creation as like sentences of the Creator. Kalamullah, right? The creation itself. Therefore, I guess you're using the word. So when you take the creation as a speech, everything you see, everything you experience becomes a word of your Creator. And I guess there is also what Osman was saying, the parallel with Quran. So we will see, I'm not sure, I forgot if he was touching this fact in this text or not, but the way of understanding Quran and the creation together is Quran gives you some, let's say, phrases, and creation is the realization of these phrases, of this phrase. So Quran tells you that He is the giver of the health, right? And you live this word, the phrase, by being sick, for instance. This is how you experience this exact phrase from Quran. There is always a parallel between words or ayah in Quran and ayah in the creation. The words in the creation.
And he's saying that these are embodied signs. Sign like ayah. Ayah in the Quran and ayah in existence with a physical form.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So just as according to the Quran's claim, those who reject this message, if they were to come together, they couldn't bring forth just a single verse or surah like it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's saying that similarly, if all the causes came together, they would not be able to make just one thing. They could not give existence to any single being.
Yeah, actually, that's a great way of reading Quran. Like in Quran, the Creator says, even if the best of you come together, just like you were saying, even if best of you come together, cannot make anything similar to one ayah of Quran.
Yeah.
So we see the same thing in the creation. Even if the best causes come together, they cannot even create one ayah of the creation that we see in the creation. And there's a perfect parallel between Quran and creation.
Yeah, the Quran says they cannot make a single, even the wing of an insect,
Yeah,
a fly, or a fly, they cannot make that.
And just to add, this is not just like an intellectual reasoning. It says the heart reads.
One
has to be like.
Yes, it's interesting that it refers to heart.
Yeah.
So what do you understand, Asim?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, normally nobody like says heart is reading it, right? So it means that one has to feel convinced the heart reads. It means I am already my intellectual exercise, logical reasoning is already done, but now I am satisfied that there is this order and art and wisdom and the existence of things. That my heart is already now set and attached to the source of the one that gives the qualities and the existence of things.
I guess we see the same thing in Quran as well, because in Quran also, the Creator tells us, for instance, they do not think with their hearts. That there are such phrases. And Musi as well, when he wants to refer to a certainty or a truth that we reach in the reality, he used the word heart again. Like with your heart you understand. Of course, I guess we shouldn't take the heart as a pumping organ. But as Asim was beautifully saying, it's the point, or it's the faculty that you reach fulfillment. When you say that, yes, I am content with this. And this is what I understand from heart.
So So it is the heart that leads to divine, the mystery of divine unity.
Yes. Things getting a little ugly now. The soul, on seeing them, sees the whole earth as a revolving in a clamorous tumult. Sorry for my English. The soul, on seeing them, sees the whole earth as revolving in a clamorous tumult of separation, and seeks enduring pleasure. It receives the meaning. You will find it in abandoning worship of this world. The mind discovers from the chanting animals and trees and the vociferous plants and air a most meaningful order of creation, embroidery of wisdom, and treasury of spirits. Again, it's so interesting that he talks about soul, how he sees the earth as a place of separation, but then immediately he also puts a meaning, a wisdom to that. We have this desire of not being separated. We have this desire of enduring pleasure. And it says, he says, there is also wisdom in that. Because your soul wants this pleasure, and you cannot reach this pleasure, enduring pleasure in this world, then you receive a message through this desire. You will find it in abandoning worship of this world. So what I'm trying to say is, because we have this desire that nothing can fulfill in this world, we reach our Creator. So we usually, when it comes to soul, in Arabic nafs, we take it something, we should get rid of. We should train ourselves how to, beat, conquer our nafs. Something not supposed to be there, it's put there by mistake, as if.
You have to fix it.
And we have to fix it. But he says, no, the desires that you have, they also have their own purpose.
So this nafs is that side of us that's constantly behind pleasure, right?
Constantly behind?
Pleasure.
Yes.
Runs after pleasure.
But seeks enduring pleasure.
Yeah, because all other pleasures are with pain because of separation. Right?
So I think enduring part is, like, for me, it's more important because in the following statements, you will find in enduring pleasure by abandoning the world. It seems like this refers to
not abandoning the world, enduring the worship of the world.
Enduring the worship of this world. I'm not sure if this refers to or it can be used interchangeably, because here it just says soul or nafs. Our ego, we want to claim ownership. We want to maintain our own existence, right? We want to have a say. And but in reality, you don't have the power to maintain your own life. On one hand, you want the permanent and enduring pleasure life. But on the other hand, you are not capable of. But at the same time, you have this side of you that you don't want to let it go. So I'm not sure if that he refers to that aspect here when he says abandoning the worship into this world. Just letting that go, that side of you to go, and come to the acceptance that you are an up and you are here for fulfilling that purpose.
I think it describes each of these aspects of the human being in its best functioning form. So the soul, the ever desirous of pleasure, the moment it sees separation, then seeks enduring pleasure. So it immediately understands that it should abandon the worship of the world. So in a lifetime, this would take a lifetime to realize, but in its best form, this is how it should function.
Yeah, the only thing I'm not so sure of, like, usually we want to hold on to things, like we have that side of us.
Yeah. It takes a lifetime to
Yeah,
train.
so that's why you're saying it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay.
I find it interesting that, actually, I'm just asking you guys, actually. It says you will find it abandoning worship of this world. It's not like abandoning
The world.
The world,
The world.
the worship of the world.
or it's not that you want to find more pleasure in the world. It's that you're actually just worshiping the world and you need to abandon them. Like, why do you think it says worship instead of
Worshipping the world means that you see the world as the source of their pleasure. So the more you seek the pleasure from them, from the things themselves, you get the feedback, no, it's not working, it's not working. That's not going to satisfy you. So the message is in the dissatisfaction that you got to stop this. You can't keep worshiping it, meaning you can't see them as the source of the pleasure. You need enduring pleasure. And that you can achieve it only through cutting this. Seek the real source, not the metaphorical. Metaphorical is metaphorical love. Metaphorical source is the things themselves. Real source will give you enduring pleasure, and that's why the nafs is made in such a way that it's displeased anytime the pleasure is not enduring.
Even if we take it from practical standpoint, I guess worshipping world is really there. It's not only like seeing it as a source of things, but I guess it's also related to this. I shouldn't separate, but we really, in practical sense, worship the world. Like we, for instance, decide what to do based on worldly things. And we think, if I do that, I will reach the success. Then that, whatever it is something you have to do, that you have to follow. Right? Otherwise, you will be punished and you will not get the success. So our relation with the worldly things, like with our boss, for instance, is, in a practical sense, is really a worship. Like most of us try to avoid the things that she or he wouldn't like. Or we worship our friends, we worship our families, we do whatever they want, whatever society wants from us. Right? And just in a practical sense, worship is doing the things that he or she or they wants you to do, and not doing the things that they don't want you to do. And we follow this.
I think worshipping is something innate, like it is there, like you are created with it. So no matter what, like you will be like worshipping something or someone. But the revelation is there to train and teach you and train you who is the rightful object of worship.
And it gives you pain when you don't find the right one. It's actually interesting because like I heard a story about like this person who, you know, it's a disease when you can't feel pain. It's a disease like humans have when you don't feel pain, and because of this, he would scratch his own eyes, and like he's like mostly blind because he's scratching his own eyes. He doesn't feel the pain, and then he like kind of ripped his nose off because he like pick his nose or like touch his.
Maybe less details.
Okay, and like when he break a leg,
That becomes very graphic.
yeah, when he break a leg because he doesn't understand the pain, he'd keep walking on it and he'd like permanently damage his leg. So he has a limp. Like this pain is teaching him. It's actually like when we see someone with this disease, like we feel pity for him. It's like, oh, he didn't have pain. Usually we don't like pain, but like I would take pain any day instead of be like him. And then it's the same thing in the world because we do feel pain when we, I guess, because we're doing wrong things, because we put our worship in wrong things, and we feel this pain. But it's actually like a mercy to us because we don't want to be like that guy who scratches our own eyes out.
It's like you're a student, you submit your work, but you never get feedback.
Yeah.
We don't know if what you've done is right or wrong. No feedback.
And you wouldn't learn anything from that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't grow.
We have 8 more minutes. So maybe we can at least finish this page. Desirous soul receives such pleasure from the murmuring air and whispering leaves that it forgets all metaphorical pleasures, and through abandoning these which endow it with life, wants to die in the pleasure of reality. What do you understand from that? Right. He says, through abandoning these which endow it with life. So this is our, again, initial state, right, against the world, that we want all these metaphorical laws. We don't want to lose them because we take them as a source of our life. So we think that if we lose them, life loses all its meaning.
Did you read the previous paragraph, the mind?
I might skip it. Go ahead, please. Read for us, please.
I thought you skipped it, that's why.
No,
Maybe I did. Yeah.
no, you read it.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
But you didn't know it, like,
We didn't talk about it.
they talked about it, but you didn't.
Oh, okay.
So, like, wants to die in the pleasure of reality. I'm not sure how this is in the original language again, but the metaphorical pleasures doesn't really mean much when you truly taste the, I guess, like the pleasure of reality. Is that what he means? Because you are abandoning the metaphorical loves, pleasures, which you want to die in the pleasure of reality. So like you have to like pass through the metaphorical laws to reach the reality, and once you reach it and once you experience it, it's much more valuable.
Yes. I mean, the way I understand is at the beginning you think all these things giving you pleasure and you don't want to lose them. But once you realize where you reach through them, the real source of love, once you realize that it's something that you are really after, yes, the permanence, once you learn how to get pleasure out of it, and you say, okay, whatever I was after at the beginning, I'm not after them anymore. Because this thing that I reach, the source of love, it's more valuable to me.
Well, you found it only through the pain of separation.
Yes.
She will come back there.
If you didn't have that pain, you would look for the real source of it. So I'm not sure if one could call the other pleasure real pleasure because it always ends with pain. So what's the point? Having said that, a lot of people, they turn life into a quest for searching instantaneous pleasures, running after instantaneous pleasures. Just leave the moment, leave the moment. Don't think about anything else. And, I don't know how they can do that, but there's that kind of understanding toward life too. So I don't know.
The desired soul means your nafs, right?
Yes.
So this goes back to what you were saying, how like we don't want to beat our nafs. We want to use it. Because here the desired soul wants something good.
Yes. Because, so yes, at the beginning, when our nafs is after these temporary, transient pleasures, it was causing us the pain. But at the end, once you reach the source of the pleasure, source of love, the creation, it is still your nafs that will get the pleasure out of it. So it's not something yet that you should get rid of.
If you kill your nafs, then there is no pleasure for you.
Yes. So what you should do is redirecting it towards the real source.
And make good use of the pain. Because only through the pain you can access the real source.
You sound real little.
I felt a lot of pain.
Use pain to pain you.
I'm a masochist.
So this paragraph is really, really interesting. The imagination sees the appointed angels have entered these trees like bodies. I'm just going to read it because we don't have time to discuss. The imagination sees that the appointed angels have entered these trees like bodies, from whose branches hang many flutes. It is as though an eternal monarch has clothed the angels in the trees for a splendid parade, accompanied with the sounds of 1,000 flutes. It goes like this. So yes, he's talking about the angels and so on, which is important that we should discuss.
Read the last sentence too, because it is important.
Thus the trees show themselves to be not lifeless, unconscious bodies, but highly conscious and meaningful. Yeah. So, but even before going that deep, the way it starts, just the way it starts, the imagination sees that appointed angels and so on. The imagination, human imagination, also has a value.
You don't think of it like that, right?
Yeah.
You think like, hey, come to the real world.
Yes, stop imagining things.
Stop daydreaming.
Yes. Even the dreaming, imagination, has a value, a reason, a wisdom being there.
But what does this mean then? I mean, what imagination sees this when he says, this is what imagination experiences. How is that reality? How is that beneficial for me?
Well, that's a great question. Inshallah, we will discuss in next discussion.
If you want to know the answer, come to next discussion.
If there are no comments or questions,
قالت لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وعلى الحمد لله رب العالمين